The Book of Habakkuk chapter 1, the prophet's lament and God's response. Habakkuk begins by crying out to God. He sees the wickedness and injustice around him in Judah and wonders why God allows such things to happen. How long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear, he asks. The prophet is troubled by the violence, strife, and conflict that seem to dominate. God responds to Habakkuk, revealing that he is indeed aware of the situation. He tells Habakkuk to look around and see the surprising way he will act. God will raise up the Chaldeans, a fierce and ruthless nation, to bring judgment upon Judah. These people are known for their cruelty and power, and they will come swiftly like a storm to bring God's discipline. Habakkuk is puzzled and troubled by this answer. He questions why God would use such a violent nation to punish his own people. The Chaldeans are even worse than the people of Judah. This causes him to wonder about the justice of God's plan. Chapter 2, the Watchtower and God's Vision. Habakkuk decides to wait for God's answer, standing on his watchtower to see what God will say. God instructs him to write down the vision clearly so it can be easily read and understood. The vision will come to pass, though it may seem slow. Habakkuk should wait for it because it will surely happen. God explains that the righteous will live by their faithfulness, contrasting them with the proud and wicked who will be judged. He condemns the greed and injustice of the Chaldeans, declaring that their power and wealth will ultimately lead to their downfall. The people will mock their downfall, saying, "Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his." God lists 5 woes against the Chaldeans: their violent conquests, their exploitation of others, their idolatry, their drunkenness, and their pride. Each woe is a declaration of their impending judgment. The chapter ends with a reminder of God's sovereignty. Despite the apparent success of the wicked, the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. God is in control, and his holiness and justice will ultimately prevail. Chapter 3, the prophet's prayer and God's majesty. Habakkuk prays to God, expressing awe and reverence. He reflects on God's mighty deeds in the past and prays for renewal and deliverance. The prophet is deeply moved by the thought of God coming to judge the earth and save his people. He describes God's power in vivid imagery, comparing his coming to a storm and a powerful force that shakes the earth. Habakkuk recounts how God has acted in history to deliver his people and defeat their enemies. He recalls the miracles performed in the past, such as the parting of the Red Sea and the defeat of the Canaanite kings. He recognizes that God's actions are filled with majesty and strength. The prophet concludes with a personal declaration of faith. Even though the situation is dire, and the fig trees may not blossom and the crops may fail, he will rejoice in the Lord. He finds his strength in God, who will enable him to endure and overcome any difficulties. Conclusion: faith and assurance. The Book of Habakkuk ultimately deals with the tension between human suffering and divine justice. It shows that even when God's plans seem unclear or perplexing, faith in his ultimate justice and sovereignty remains essential. Habakkuk learns that God's ways are beyond human understanding, but faith and trust in him are the path to peace and strength amidst adversity.